Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Club. I am your host, Jamil Payne. And with me today, as always, is our own quarantine dancing queen, Amanda Comey. How are you doing, Amanda?
I'm doing all right.
You know, we're going to have to find you another name besides quarantine dancing queen. Like, you know, it sounds really good, like phonically. But, like, since we're coming out of quarantine, it seems it may not
Well,
be a...
it'll be a little while before dancing is really. I mean,
Oh, you will
in
always be the
the
dancing queen.
but in the spectrum of things that are safe to do right now, I'm gonna admit, as much as I want to be out dancing, dancing is kind of like obviously a no-go still.
Mm, mm.
So I'll still be in dance quarantine for a while.
Okay, okay.
Just saying, I've bought us, we got like another month or two at least.
Well, it seems like nobody else seems to worry right. Look, I read a meme somewhere, or was it a post? I wish I could give credit, but someone said they can't believe coronavirus lost a 28-3 lead to racism. Like, this month has been, I mean, this year has been nuts, right? And like, before we, oh, by the way, we are discussing God Love Man Kills.
Which makes all of this preamble relevant, in
Yes,
case, yes.
yes, it does. Because Amanda, you gotta understand something. I chose this book for us to read this week months ago.
Yeah.
When we decided that, like, oh, I might change it, they're like, no, I think we'll stick with it. This was like what, 2, 3? It was 3 weeks ago, right?
Yes.
In those 3 weeks since we chose to read this book, it has become even more relevant than it already has. Like, it almost seems like I'm an opportunist, but really, it's like this weird divine like synergy, right? That we're,
Yeah.
if you don't know, for people who don't, because I know, believe it or not, I think we got almost more international listeners than we do American listeners. America is burning right now, as we speak. There's a lot of protests. There's Amanda, you speak more eloquent than me. Can you explain what's going on a little bit? Just a little bit?
Well, we have a significant population in the US who are underemployed and have a lot of free time right now.
Right?
And this has allowed for the murder of a black man by cops caught on video in Minneapolis to be more widely acknowledged and understood than it would ordinarily be.
Right.
And now there is tremendous support amongst people who have literally nothing better to do anymore, to get out and demonstrate and argue that while we're adjusting our budgets to handle coronavirus changes to society, we should maybe spend some of the money we were spending on police in other areas.
Right. Right. So, as of right now, all 50 states have had protests. There's been protests around the world, unprecedented protests for Black Lives Matters around the world. John Boyega, Finn from Star Wars, has somehow became a folk hero. Like, shit is crazy. I personally went out protesting last Monday. And like, you know, nothing crazy happened per se. But man, it was wild. The police was kind of aggressive. Look, I don't know what to say about this, right? It's just like, it's just, you know, reading this book, and like, before we even get into it, it's just like, damn, this book was written like in 1982, yo, and we still fighting the same shit.
Right. I had a serious feeling that I wish it had felt more dated. Like,
Yeah.
I wish that I had needed to read the introduction to understand the context, and instead you could just pick it up and read it, and you're like, what, this book is like 3 years old, right?
And you remember when I read it, and I text you,
Mm-hmm.
And you was like, oh no, I haven't read it yet. And I was just like, well, Amanda,
Spoilers.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, Amanda, this is gonna be a little bit heavy. This is way more heavy. Like that's the thing, right? With X-Men, you always know it's gonna be heavy, but this is really heavy. But like, I just want to say, man, like, look, if you're out there, protect yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? There is still like a quarantine or like a coronavirus thing going around. If you're gonna be out there, be safe. As far as like police brutality and stuff, man, it's like it's a thing. And just make like, you know what it feels like, Amanda? Honestly, in my lifetime, right? I always felt like, you know what? It feels better. Like things are not as bad as it was in the '60s, right? That's kind of been the thing, right? Like, yeah, things are rough, but like it's way better. We've made big strides in this country in the 50 years. You know what I'm saying? Since the civil rights movement. I gotta say something. This might be the most racist year I've ever lived in my life.
Yeah.
Like, this feels almost like the '60s in a weird way. Like, because of who we have in charge at the highest level, and because of the people he emboldened, and the dog whistles that he put out, I've never seen so much open racism in my life. Just open and blatant racism. And the fact that people will even argue that like that something is not as innocuous as Black Lives Matter is dangerous, or like the fact if you call someone a Nazi, people get upset now. Like, why the fuck would you get upset if we call something like Nazism? Like that's bad. You shouldn't want that. Like, it's really odd.
Oh yeah, no, this is bizarre, and this type of brutality has been going on for a long time, but it took the world already being half burned down for people to really sit up and pay attention,
Yeah, and
which is a shame, but I'm thankful for it at some level.
I mean, look. I don't want to get into it too much, but like, look. At this point, I feel like, from what I've seen, right, number one, I think it's crazy that police are just beating white people now. Like, it's crazy. They want to beat black people so bad that they've resorted to beating up white people just so they can keep the right to beat up black people unfazed. That's that's crazy. And like, before anyone says anything, just know that almost every case of like police killing a black person, say in the last 5 to 7 years, almost every case, high profile cases that everybody know about, almost all those cops have been found innocent. Almost every single one. So it's not even enough that they've been charged. Are they going to be found? Are they going to be found guilty? Because that's the thing, right? We march and we march and we do hashtags and shit. But like, how effective is it if every cop gets away with the murder? Like you know, the people that, like, you know, Tamir Rice, those cops didn't go to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody. Um, there's so many, and like I don't think the people that like what happened to Sandra Bland, I don't think nobody went to jail for that. Or the Ferguson kid, I don't think nobody went to jail for that, and so forth and so on. Amanda, it seemed like this started with Trayvon Martin, and I know like George Zimmerman isn't a cop,
Yeah.
but it seems like that was a trigger, because everybody could blatantly see that he murdered that boy and he got away with it. And like, I know it's not necessarily a trigger, but that's where it seems to start. Like, it's always been a thing, but that's when it start like getting this momentum where people start to notice, like, hey, nobody's being held accountable for these people. And hopefully my son will live in a better time. But like one of my friends said, I can no longer tell my son that, you know, I had it harder than him because he grew up in 2020. Okay, I think I think that's enough. You got anything to say, Amanda? I'm sorry.
Defund the police.
Defund the police. And
We're
you know,
asking them. We're asking them to do too many things that they're obviously not qualified for. If they're not smart enough to be able to de-escalate situations, we can just ask them to do less, and we can spend that money on people who are smart enough and have the training to actually handle the situations.
And here's the thing. I just want to let everybody know I'm a cop kid. I was raised by a cop. Straight up. I carry my grandfather's badge. He raised me in my wallet to this day. He's been dead he's been dead since 2002. He died when I was 17. But that's the man that raised me. Him and my grandma, they raised me. So like I understand how hard it is of a job it is to be a cop. I understand the worry in it. But at this point, even though I was proud that my grandfather was a police officer, and like I used to ride in the squad car and turn on the lights and all that shit, right? As a black man, I can no longer support a system. Not that I really ever supported it, but I really can't support a system at this point that's not even made for black people to see. See, that's the thing. The system is not failing black people. The system was never meant for us to succeed in the first place. So it's actually working the way it's supposed to. And if that's the case, if that's the rot that's within inside it, you have to tear it down and rebuild it. What does that look like? I don't know. Will there be bumps along the way? Probably. Defunding the police and dismantling it, maybe that's an extreme. But from that extreme, maybe something better will arise from it. Because right now, if defunding the police is too far left, right now they're too far right because they have military weapons, right? They're basically soldiers without the training. Well, some are soldiers, right? And here's the thing: it doesn't matter if you're a black cop, white cop, Asian cop, as we've seen, right? When you become a police officer, the first thing they train you to do is be distrustful of minorities. Maybe not through actual training, but through just the culture of it. And because of that, you have to defund this. Like, George Floyd didn't have to die. It was allegedly a counterfeit $20 bill. But from my understanding, he was a pretty cool dude. It probably wasn't. But you don't need a guy with a gun and handcuffs for that shit.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
We don't pay the cops to go answer that call. We pay somebody else to go.
When the guy got shot in Miami because because he had a special needs student. You know what I'm saying? You don't need cops for that. When someone calls and say, hey, there's a strange man, you don't need cops for that. Or especially that many. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It just, I don't know. Like, and you know me, Amanda, I'm very pragmatic. You know what I'm saying? And I usually would never say shit like down with capitalism or down with like the cops, because I understand that there's like a bit of gray area there. But at this point, I don't know what else to do.
I'm right there too.
One more thing, I'm gonna let it go. It's funny to me that there's white people in this country that can follow Star Wars, right? That love Star Wars, that can follow that plot. But in real life, they don't understand the value of violent resistance. They can understand it in a sci-fi movie, but they can't understand it in real life. And I'm gonna tell you something: no change in this country has ever came peacefully. If people invoke Martin Luther King, white conservatives invoke Martin Luther King all the time. Mind you, when Martin Luther King was killed, he was the most hated man in America. The FBI tried to blackmail him and make him kill himself. He was the most hated man in America when he was shot by a white person. And even his protests, non-violent, but his protests were never peaceful. And that's what people don't understand. They complain about blocking the expressway. I did that last Monday. That's what King did too. And like they want this sanitized Disney version of King. When King, for all him being kind of conservative, was like a real radical of his time. So all I'm gonna say is, I'm gonna do is like quote him, probably poorly, but like riots are the language of the unheard. I think I said that right. Right? Is that it? And it doesn't matter. You get what I'm saying. If you don't want people to riot, you gotta treat them better. All this stuff that's broken, it can be rebuilt. Okay, I've talked about this way too long, and I'm really long-winded already. So, Amanda.
Yeah.
DC Comics have pulled out
Speaking of riots.
yeah, speaking of riots, DC Comics has completely pulled out of Diamond distribution. Now, I don't know much about comic distribution, but I've known Diamond pretty much has a monopoly on that, right? And it has for like the last 30 years.
Yeah.
So apparently, again, I don't know the particulars. This is a big deal. Amanda, it is, without just speaking from ignorance, are we about to get to the point where maybe comics are not published physically anymore, or at least not in single issues, or maybe a way more heavier focus on digital? Do you think we might be heading in that way?
I'm not sure,
Oh,
because I think one of the things that Diamond made difficult was that you used to be able to buy comic books at the supermarket
right.
or a bookstore or a gas station.
Yes.
And Diamond is one of the reasons why that stopped.
Right.
So without Diamond, DC could get their physical comics in any place. So I think that I think that we're definitely going to see investment in digital comics, of course, but we've been waiting for, I mean, there are some comic book fans who pretty much, there are the weirdos who blame Marvel having female characters for the decline of the comics industry. There are people who, I don't know, blame Batman getting married or not getting married for the decline of the industry, whatever. I'm one of the comic book fans who blames Diamond for any issues in the comic book industry. So I'm relieved to see that they're not going to be the only show in town anymore.
So, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the things I wanted to bring up, is that they could definitely put stuff back in drugstores and grocery stores again, which I've always been an advocate of. Excuse me. But do you think this move could possibly hurt the local comic book shop? If it's available in more places?
I was going to say, I think that the most difficult part for the comic book stores may just be logistics, because right now they get to do almost all of their ordering from one company, because Diamond also brings them toys and collectibles and figurines, and you as a comic book store, you pretty much just have one supplier.
Right.
Now, just to get their weekly comics, they're going to have to deal with at least 2 different suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's going to be, it'll just be logistically harder for comic book stores to keep up with their inventory and figure out what they're doing. So that takes mental energy and software and resources and stuff. So I could see it hurting local stores from that. Just customer service may go down. Normally you walk into a store and you say, hey, I'm looking for this book. And they go, okay, let me see if I could order it for you. And they just have to check one spot. Right. Now they'll have to check more spots.
So I know this about a lot of comic book shops, not all, but I know a lot like this. A lot of them are very arcane in the way they do stuff.
Yep.
And this is, look, if this, because I look at Twitter, and I was looking at comic book shop owners on Twitter, and they were saying how bad this could be and how terrible this could be, but and it may be, and some stores may close down, but you gotta evolve or die, man.
Yeah.
And it seems like DC is hopefully, is taking the initiative in the right way to evolve their business. And if you can't get with the times, maybe you shouldn't have a store. Is that harsh?
Um, no, I pretty much agree with it. I mean, it's really similar to what people are saying about restaurants right now is that the businesses that can't adapt to the current circumstances were maybe not the best businesses anyways.
Right, right, right. So we'll see how this play out over the months and years, but it's going to be real interesting, like going forward, because like you said, right? Maybe it'll hurt them maybe it'll hurt DC in the short term, but if they can get single issues in other places,
Mm-hmm.
that might help. That might help in the long run, because I would love to have comics be an impulse buy again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of because where I live at, right, there's no comic book shops within 30 miles of me. None.
Really?
Even if I don't buy single issues, but even if I wanted to, there's no place. If I want to buy graphic novels, there's really no bookstore close to me either. But even if there was a bookstore close, the selection ain't gonna be as good as say in a comic book shop. So if you can distribute more graphic novels to bookstores or to like a Walmart or more single issues to this place, it may work out. I'm just saying, because like I said, I where I used to live at, I had like 3 comic book shops within like a 20-mile radius. Now I live in a place that has none, and there's none close. So yeah, evolve or die. Man, this has been a really nihilistic episode so far, Amanda.
You ready to talk about the nihilistic comic?
Yes, yes.
It's it's not. It's ultimately not nihilistic, I think, but we'll get into that.
Ultimately, yes. Today we are talking God Loves, Man Kills, written by Chris Claremont, drawn by Brent Anderson. It was released in 1982. It is Marvel's 5th one-shot graphic novel that they ever made. It's the 5th one. And the summary goes: the uncanny, how did that blah 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 blah. The uncanny. Don't.
I think you just invented a new X-Men line for Marvel.
The uncanny X-Men. They just really stupid.
Actually, iconic Iron Man is alliterative. That might be good.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'll get right on there. I'll go to Hollywood and tell Marvel.
All right.
All right. The uncanny X-Men and Magneto, the master of magnetism, the bitterest of enemies for years, but now they must join forces against a new adversary who threatens them and the whole world in the name of God. So Amanda, God Love, Man Kills, written in 1982 by the legendary Chris Claremont. What do you think of it?
I mean, it's funny you kept saying iconic. There are so many moments from this series, this volume, that I've seen reflected in like every movie version of the X-Men.
Yeah.
In particular, it feels like the somewhat sympathetic version of Magneto that we usually get in the movies, the nuanced relationship between Charles and Magneto. That playing out in this volume was really, really, I found that really satisfying, and I was really surprised to see it, honestly.
Right.
I also was just kind of overall impressed at how intense the story was and how high the stakes were without having a massive climactic battle that involved lots and lots of characters throwing everything they had against each other.
Right.
Like the Dark Phoenix saga that we read, which is similar era, escalated until there were more and more characters fighting each other. in space, so you don't even have to worry about civilians. It was in some level raising the stakes just to make the fights bigger without really having the same like intimate consequences.
Right.
So those were the two things that like impressed me most, was the nuance with Magneto, and that this somehow, I was like really scared reading this, but it did not involve giant machines. It did not involve sentinels. It did not involve even the entire world knowing that it was at risk.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I read this like a couple of days ago, I'm gonna say something like this has tangentially to do with the comic, but I gotta say this.
Yeah.
The myth about the X-Men is that Stan Lee created the X-Men as an allegory for the civil rights movement. I'm sure you've heard that, right, Amanda?
Yeah.
That you know, Magneto is Malcolm X and Professor X is Martin Luther King, right? Amanda, that's bullshit, and it's always have been. And I'll tell anybody that Stan Lee didn't start saying that shit till Chris Claremont did it. Chris Claremont did that. It was not Stan Lee, and I love Stan. You know what I'm saying? But Stan is also an opportunist, and it wasn't Chris Claremont gave those allegories that it was an actual thing. If Magneto was supposed to be Malcolm X when Stan Lee wrote him, he didn't think very highly of Malcolm X then.
Yeah.
Because like he was just a must-dress Charlie villain. Everything from like them being friends to them being close to Magneto being sympathetic, all that sprang from the mind of Chris Claremont. Even him being like a Holocaust survivor, none of that came from Stan. But Stan will now say, well, he's dead now, but Stan will always say, oh yeah, you know, I made this as an allegory. No, he didn't. He ain't fucking thinking none of that shit. It's bullshit. And I wish people would stop saying it. You know what I'm saying? Just for me that, oh yeah, you know, Magneto, you know, like yes, now he is, but that's like 20 years later. Like Stanley did not have that in his mind. I'm always, I just want to repeat that because we need to be honest about this. Chris Claremont is a genius. That's basically what I'm trying to point to. Do not credit Stan Lee with any of that. All that come from Chris Claremont. That's all. That's all I want to say. As far as background, as far as this book goes, I loved it. I think it's great. I was listening to a podcast, and and the funniest thing was I was listening to a podcast like the day before yesterday about God Love Man's Kills, and it was from 2014 to 2015, right? And the host said they thought it was really unrealistic that somebody could work use religion to work people up into a fervor to want to kill in this day and age.
What?
No, in this day and age. But like, and I laugh from 2020 when you have like a president that they have used the evangelical Christians to get elected on a platform of hate. You know what I'm saying? But it's funny that they thought in 2014, 2015 that nowadays that would seem unrealistic. As I laugh from 2020, as I laugh from the future, so let's tell you how relevant this is, and it's dark. And like, there's a couple of things that I got issues with, like that I feel that's there for sensationalism, which usually I don't have a problem with, but maybe just in the headspace that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
That like there's a couple of things that Claremont did that I don't think isn't cool. But overall, I've always said the Dark Phoenix was the best X-Men story. I think this might supplant that in my mind.
Honestly, I would say that I prefer this story for the reason I said, which is just that it didn't end with a huge throw everything at each other battle.
Right.
Making you excited and making you invested and making you care without raising the stakes in such an obvious way is something that I like really, really appreciate. Do you want to talk about like any specific scenes
Well,
from?
well, like clearly, like there's clearly a civil rights allegory going on here a bit. Like, I don't think it's an accident that the purifiers killed two black kids, then hang them. Like,
I was gonna say I talked about. I mean, I'm making this claim that he gets us to this really intense resolution without any obvious tricks, and I'm like, except he starts by killing two black kids on like page one.
right, and like I have an issue with that. Like, and again, it may just be because of the headspace I'm in, because of where the country is. You know what I'm saying right now. But like, I get what he's doing. I get what he's trying to say. And like, I guess it worked, right? Like it does set the tone, right? It does set the tone. Now, I don't think Chris Claremont hate black people. That's not what I'm saying. I think actually the exact opposite. I think he was making a point and trying to connect like white evangelical Christians to like their opposition against the civil rights movement or against black people.
Well, because it starts, you don't know why they're killing the kids,
Exactly.
and you're allowed to believe for a page or two that it's because they're black.
Yes. And just seeing a little black boy and a little black girl. Look, kids in general. Like I got a rough time with seeing kids like harmed anyway. But
Yeah.
like a little black boy and a little black girl, especially in this environment in this climate, it was a little rough. You know what I'm saying? But I get what he do. But I guess it worked because it gets you to where you need to be in the headspace of what this comic is about.
Yeah.
But,
I have a question. I have a question for you about that.
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Would it have felt better if there had been at least another black character in the story? Like, if one of
Hmm.
the X-Men had been black, would that have made you feel, would that have made it a little bit more certain in your mind that Chris Claremont wasn't being like exploitative and that, you know, black characters can have a role in the story other than to just die to make white people angry?
Well, there is Storm, but she sidelined most of the comic.
Oh gosh, she's so sidelined. I like didn't even appreciate she was in it. And also, is she with Scott?
She is with. Oh, you talking about is she with Scott? Yo, I wanted to ask you the same thing. Cause there's a couple of panels in here that's kind of like I don't know. So okay, so to be fair, this story wasn't canon
Right.
until X2 came out in like 2003, 2004. Like it was purposely not canon, even though it could easily slide in. You know what I'm saying? Because it used a team from that time. You know what I'm saying? Everything, so you could easily slide it in. But so if they wanted to, they could have, because quote unquote is not canon.
Okay.
But yeah, that was weird, Amanda. I wasn't for sure my damn self.
I mean, I guess that's kind of the point is that neither of those characters were really in the story enough for us to even establish their current relationship level.
Right. I think this take place after the Dark Phoenix, so this might actually be after Jean dies.
Well,
Or
I think we know that because Kitty's in it and she showed
right,
up for
right.
the first time during that
That's
Phoenix
right.
saga.
That's right. That's right. With a terrible code name and a suit.
Yeah.
Like she's had many code names and suits. I love the fact that they've just settled on. She's just Kitty Pryde. She doesn't need a
Yeah.
name. Everybody else get one, not her. Not her. She's just Kitty. Look, Kitty is a ridiculous name enough as it is. That's all she needs. Um.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it brings up this other thing that happens in this book. Because I want to get the problems out the way first, like my bigger issues out the way
Yeah.
before I praise it. Kitty says nigger in this book,
Yeah.
and that's really not reckoned with. And I don't like the black woman's reaction to that at all.
Yeah.
Because I get what point she was trying to make, but I'm gonna tell you, if you would say it to a black woman, she probably would have smacked you, because you can't beat racism with racism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? You get what I'm trying to say? Like, it's it's that thing, right? It's that weird thing, right? I know within like this universe, mutants are like prosecuted, right? You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it's kind of like how, like, I don't know, like, all racial slurs are bad, right? But there are some that are way worse than others, if we're being honest, because some have like a history and a weight behind it, right? You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And like at the very top of that list is nigger, followed closely behind the F word. You know what F word I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like those are like the two that are like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, and it's just weird that he does that and he says that, because like it's not needed, right? It's just not needed for her to say.
It's kind of, again, an extension of like the quote cheap tricks that he's using to start this book off with, is that we just saw the black kids get murdered, and now he's brought in a black character just so that he's allowed to use that word.
But the black
To
character, go ahead, go
but
ahead.
right, but the black character is not the one using it, but it's, again, he's trying to make it like super super obvious the storyline that he's setting up and
Right.
what you're supposed to be thinking about in real world terms. So I mean, it's a little, I guess I would say it's a little obvious. Maybe with a few more pages in the volume, he could have handled it a little bit more better.
And the fact that the black woman turns away and cries and says she's right, I'm like, nah, that's not how that would go down. That's
No,
not how
it's not.
that's not how that would go down at all. She would tell.
It's almost as, oh, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. What you were gonna say?
I was going to say it's almost as bad as like the cops who are standing next to like the rioters and they're like, wow, I can't believe these idiot protesters believe this guy. I'm kind of worried they might get out of control. I'm like, no, like the cops aren't like the voice of reason in this situation. That seems weird.
Right, exactly. And so, like, I just, like, again, I get what he's trying to do, and I know his heart in the right place, right? But it's
Yeah.
just like, it's just not cool, because like I said, I don't feel like that's real. Look, it's actually, maybe he's right. Maybe that's realistic, because if anybody gonna say nigga and think they can get with it, it's some 13-year-old white girl, like who's not thinking about what she says.
Um, I was going to say, I'm surprised that the metaphor Kitty went with wasn't the Jewish one,
Right.
because she is drawn with a Star of David conspicuously in this story.
She's what?
Her necklace,
Uh-huh.
the Star of David, like I don't remember seeing Kitty drawn wearing that usually.
Yeah.
And it's kind of conspicuous. It's kind of like, hey, like we want you to appreciate that she's also Jewish. So I'm surprised that for her character that's not the angle she brought up with, or she
Right.
brought, like, if this boy didn't like me because I was Jewish, you would call him a Nazi. Why does it, but he doesn't like me because I'm a mutant and you're fine with that, right? Like that's the argument she easily could have made. And that's a situation, this specific scene where you had a problem with her bringing up the N-word is a place where she could have mentioned being Jewish personally.
Right. And like I said, just the black woman reaction. I don't know if you ever met a black woman, but if you said nigga in front of them, that shit is not going to fly. That's not a stereotype. That shit would not fly. She would tell Kitty to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Right then and there.
Yeah.
But, I guess, and Colossus does try to apologize for it, that she's just a kid. Which like, no, it's fine because she's right, and it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And apparently, like 20 issues later in the regular comic, she uses it again.
Mm.
So you know, Claremont was really working that.
He
So
was
yeah,
trying to be edgy.
yeah, he was trying. Yeah, he was trying to be edgy. He was trying to be like, you know what I'm saying, more adult, more mature. And I guess this is just the growing pains of that, right?
Hmm.
But you know, with that being said, I don't want nothing changed because overall this book is a masterpiece. Even the clunky parts like that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, what should we talk about? Should we talk about the villain of this piece, William Stryker, the evangelical?
Yeah.
Like I find it interesting that he's specifically evangelical. Evangelical. It's hard for me to say words today. Um, it just goes to show you how long of a problem evangelical Christians have been in this country, and what type of power they hold over the public. What do you think of this villain, Amanda?
I mean, I think that part of what part of what's so scary about this villain is that he's so close to reality
Right.
that the evangelical, not just evangelical, the televangelists, so the personalities who amass huge followings and have insane resources because of that, because they're really, I mean, they're not necessarily as focused on the religion as they are on building the cult of personality and accumulating those resources. It's just, that's what makes it so scary, is to realize that any one of those groups could take that money and decide to actually do something with it.
Right.
And I mean, they already do. Like we know in real life that a lot of those organizations with thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, millions, took $1 from everybody and then gave it to Trump.
Right.
So being reminded of that sort of power and its proximity to like real life situations is kind of unnerving. And also just the religious aspect of it, making it beyond reason, is also a little bit scary, because you can't argue with someone like that. Like, you can't take an explanation or a demonstration or an allegory or a metaphor. There's no way that you can change someone's mind if they really, really believe that it's just God. So it's kind of, that fanaticism is kind of scary.
Yeah, it is, and it also touches on the hypocrisy of what's going on. And again, it's like the Trump thing, right? Evangelical Christians supported Trump, even though he's like 3 times divorced, married porn stars. His wife was like a nude model. You know what I'm saying? And not even tasteful nudes either. Just straight up naked. And they like he say he's from God, which goes to show you that it's not actually about God, right? It's about control and about, you know, stuff maybe being not as white. I think there's some other races. I think there's some other followers that's not white in this book, I think, of Stryker. But like for the most part, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they voted for Trump because he's white. You know what I'm saying? But they use God as that cover, and that's kind of what Stryker is doing, right? He's using his love of God, the word of God, as a shield for his hate.
Well, what's even scarier is that, like, he really believes it, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's not as, like, from our point of view, it looks manipulative, like it looks contrived, but it's really, like, it's also his truth. Like, it's also, like, I mean, this is, so we get a flashback for Stryker.
Yes.
Where his family was in a car accident, and then his wife went into labor, and something was wrong with the baby, so he killed the baby and his wife.
Well, he tried to kill himself, but he was blown free.
Right.
Somehow.
So this is a man where if you went up to him and you're like, oh, you would feel different if it was your kid, he would be like, no, actually, I literally killed my own kid.
That,
Like,
that, that
you can't reason with that guy.
yeah, that's some Old Testament shit, by the way. That's some real Old Testament
Yeah.
shit right there that he did. Like it's but yeah, it's really scary, man. It's really
Well,
I
and
like.
I wanted to just check with you. My understanding was also that like, and this is mostly from the movies, that the X gene is activated at puberty.
For the most part, but
So like, I was even under the assumption that it wasn't that the kid was obviously a mutant, just that like there was something else wrong, like he was born without a leg.
oh wow, I didn't even. I wonder if that had been solidified at this point,
Yeah,
as far as the whole puberty thing. You know what I'm saying? Because again, Claremont is making up these tropes that we know now as we go.
yeah.
So I wonder if that's something that has been like firmly like
I mean,
which
I'm figuring that with the kids at the very beginning, it probably
what
wasn't necessarily, but anyways, I'm just like that's my understanding of the character was that it didn't even necessarily have to be a mutant, that he probably would go after people who were just disabled or
wow.
just black or just not Christian enough, right?
You know what? That's even darker. But yes, you're probably right. I will say this: Nightcrawler
Hmm.
was born the way he looks, and that's why he was shipped down the river to
Right.
the monastery. So I think it can activate early, especially if it's like some type of physical type thing. But
Yeah.
like yeah, you're right. You are absolutely right. Like yeah, just anybody different, anybody that wasn't white. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that wasn't white and Christian like he was probably could have got it. Then like it's I find it interesting that eventually he blames his wife. It's his wife's fault. So like there's a big healthy dose of misogyny and sexism in here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because he was saved. He tried to blow them both up and God saved him and not her.
So
And
clearly,
how can he reconcile that?
right? How can he reconcile his guilt? Like you know what I'm saying? That's how I always felt that he was guilt. That he felt
Hmm.
tremendous guilt, and the only way he could get that guilt off him if he blamed the woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So man, there's a lot of interesting things that happen in this book. Like from the I like did they kill Storm and Cyclops? Cause it looked like they shot him in the head, both of them, and like they killed Professor X. And I was just like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I mean, knowing that this was kind of a standalone, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, no, this did not, yeah, this did not pull its punches in a lot of places.
So like they have a debate on TV. Now we just jumping all over the place. They have a debate on TV, and like it's that thing of like, well, it's almost like a Trump thing, right? Where like Professor X is coming off logical, but but not Trump, but Stryker is coming off more likable and bombastic.
Yes.
I thought that was really an interesting way to portray like that debate between those two.
I mean, I just liked that it started right off the bat with showing that Charles wasn't perfect.
Right.
Because as the leader and the organizer, it's very easy to make him infallible.
Right.
And just right, and I don't even mean like, because there have been, I mean, that's how some of the movies were set up. That's how some of the other stories have been set up, is like Professor X's hubris. But like, I don't even mean that. I just mean like small things. Like he's not as good at talking on television, or like, I don't know, like he makes sloppy peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I don't know, just like small human failings.
You know what? I thought about that too, cause in my mind, like Professor X, in my mind, Professor X would be good at stuff like that, right? And the fact that he wasn't, it is interesting. That did strike me as well.
Um, no, I liked it because it's like you don't want him to be good at everything, and it's also I feel like it may also have been a little bit of him. So something that had occurred to me is I was like, I don't know, if you're like a telepath at that level, shouldn't you be great at talking at crowds of people? And I feel like this may have been a situation where he was like, no, I have to go in there as a human and not use any of my powers and just be super mediocre at it because that's fair, right?
Right. Plus, maybe it's that thing where like Charles is so ethical sometimes. Maybe he felt like he didn't want to use his powers.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he can be unethical too as like years goes on. Like, there's plenty of stories about how unethical like Xavier can be sometimes. But like at this point in time, right? You know what I'm saying? Like he's held up as this very very ethical man when it comes to his powers.
Yeah.
Like and like it also might be just a bit of him underestimating Stryker, right?
Yes.
Like he probably thought this was gonna be easy pickings, and maybe wasn't as prepared as he should have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. This. What do you think of Wolverine? I guess we should like we should talk about the coolest X-Men ever.
Uh,
As far as people are concerned, like, what do you think of his role in this story?
I loved the amount of Wolverine in this story.
Right, perfect amount.
Yeah. Like, he got to be, there were moments where you could tell that he was obviously, like, not amused by everything. He got a couple of good lines in. He definitely was, like, one of the most useful characters in all of the fighting and stuff. It was just enough.
And it's that thing like, oh man, he's a not necessarily a support. He's a great supporting character, but he's great in an ensemble when you let other people talk, and he doesn't like completely take over the story.
Yeah.
I love that part where Kitty comes in after the fight, and he asks that question like, "Did you win?" I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
something. Like, Amanda, did you ever fight in school?
No.
You never got in a fight in school, right?
Right.
So where I'm from, people fight all the time, right? They get in fights all the time, right? And you come home crying and stuff. The first thing a black parent asks you is, "Did you win?"
I
And
mean, yeah, if you're gonna get in a fight, like, at least win it.
then I'm just gonna tell you, if you say no, they make you go back out there and go fight again. That's nuts. But yeah, that's a thing. Like, I've seen that happen. Like, oh well, you need to go back out there until you win, and you looking like, just got my ass kicked. Like, nah, nah, we don't have losers in this house. But yeah, so like I did like that little bit. I did like that exchange. Also, maybe it's just me, but I do like the whole idea of them in street clothes and just sitting around watching TV. There's something. There's something about that I like. Like, I feel like I could take like a whole half of a whole 6 issues, a whole half of a year of just like the X-Men in domesticated situations. I really do like.
A little coffee shop fanfic.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Like I would love that. You know what I'm saying? Them just playing baseball, going to the grocery store, playing checkers. I think I could read about 6 issues of that before I got sick of it. But yeah, so I kind of like that. Like, them just like, cause they do seem like a family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we should get to like the more like powerful moments in this book. Number one, the World Trade Center is featured heavily in this book, which is powerful unintentionally because they're not there anymore, and like they have this thing where like Charles is getting crucified on a cross with his students coming and ripping him apart. What do you think of this imagery, Amanda?
Um, Again, not super subtle.
No, 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 no. But I think
Um,
I think this works a little bit better. But yeah,
yeah. I mean, I, okay, so one thing I was surprised about, and I think this is maybe good for being an accurate characterization of Stryker, but um, why, because this is sort of a like psychically induced nightmare thing that Stryker's controlling.
Right.
I think. I'm not sure why religious imagery would necessarily come up
Mm-hmm.
for Charles. That's more of a Stryker thing.
Right.
So I was a little bit surprised that the religious imagery carried over into Charles's nightmare. But I thought that it kind of really drove the point home.
Right. Right.
And also sort of gets you started thinking about like did Charles see himself that way? Did he see himself as like the first mutant son, and that all of the other mutants had to come to him and like accept him in order to be saved in society?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's a little on the nose, but why not? It's a comic book, and he's only got like 3 pages to get that idea across, so go with it. Oh, I will say that as I was reading it the first time, because we knew that Xavier had been like we realized that they're not all dead, that Stryker's been knocking them out somehow. I was afraid that it was like actually happening.
Yeah.
For a moment, like I was like, did he like hypnotize the X-Men to attack Xavier in real life? So for a page, I was like actually following it like that, and then I went, no, this has to be in his mind at some level.
Yeah. 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 So Stryker has henchmen, and his number one henchman is this woman who name escapes me at the moment. I should be better at these things, but she's like I'm breaking this up because it becomes important in the story later. It's like she's like his most devout follower, right? And
Yeah,
then when the machine turns on, come to find out she has a mutant gene, and he kills her.
yeah,
And I just thought that was a really powerful moment because she's almost in the book as much as he is, right? Like she's
yeah,
like she's almost so like for her to have like such an unceremoniously end is really powerful within the context of this story. That this character that has been such a threat and such a nuisance to our heroes is taken out by like her own leader
yeah.
in such a like um well, was it Tasha on Shar on Star Trek? She's that's kind of how she get taken out. She just get pushed and her neck snaps, and it's just like, well, shit. Like there's like Claremont pulls no punches, right? He pulls no punches within this story, and there's a lot of moments in here that I can like think of. I like when Magneto and Wolverine is torturing the guy, right? Like that's some very great stuff, and it speaks to like there's things about Wolverine in this story. Just to go back to him for a second, that hints at his past, right?
Yeah,
Like when they go see the wreckage, Wolverine was like, this ain't their bodies. This all is set up. And Colossus was like, how do you know? He was like, I've done a few of these in the past myself. And it's just that hint of backstory, right? You don't get a full explanation, but he just told you what type of person he is, right? So when they go torture the dude, right? When he was gonna threaten to kill the dude if he don't explain, Magneto was like, well, let me try. And Magneto tortures the dude like almost to death, and Wolverine don't even blink. And like someone bring up, well, if we use the methods of our enemies, are we no better? And Wolverine just kind of like, just like, whatever. Like it got what we needed, and it's just enough to explain this guy who's on the right side, but who's slightly just more morally gray than the rest of his like comrades. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And that was really good. I love that line where Magneto said, "Well, let me try," and Wolverine was like, "It's your lucky day, punk." And Magneto was like, "No, Not really. Like, so yeah, I love Magneto in this. I think like this is um this is like a coming out party for him. Cause if I'm not mistaken, this is like the first time like sympathetic Magneto has ever been shown before it showed up in a regular book.
It was pretty badass, to be honest.
It was, especially when he comes in at the end and just rips the roof off the place.
Yeah. No, I was like, this is, and again, just like with Wolverine, it wasn't too much. Like it
Right,
wasn't like Magneto came in and replaced Charles. It was like Magneto was kind of like not, yeah. He was kind of like he just dropped by to be like, look, let's not get in each other's way.
right.
And
Like
also, I would rather you guys stay alive because I have other uses for you.
and like this is the thing that I always liked about X-Men. Like this is like one of my maybe top three things I like about X-Men is that as much as they fight each other, they constantly have to team up with their enemy because humans be tripping. And I've always loved that about X-Men. Like even though they're fighting, they're almost like a big family, even when they fighting to the death. You know what I'm saying? They're almost like a big family because
Yeah.
when time arises, they will always join each other. They can have disagreements. They can blow each other up. They can stab each other. But then when the Sentinels come, all of a sudden they're friends. Like they had to like it's like that thing of like we can fight with each other, but you don't get to come in here and tell us what to do. I kind of like that about the X-Men. That's why almost every mutant has been an X-Men, including like Sabretooth, which is weird, and Juggernaut.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess the only couple other things we should talk about is the fact that, well, two or three things, right? Is the fact that this ends with a cop saving the day, which is a weird thing in the era we live in, right? But like,
Yeah, like I said, it felt a little weird.
yeah, it felt a little weird, but like if you like, there are sensible voices within the book, and the cops were like a couple of the sensible voices. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like I do like it wasn't the X-Men that saved the day. It wasn't like Magneto. It was just this. It was just this guy. Like, all right, break it up. Just it's over with. The mutants can go. This dude's an asshole. I kind of like that it ends almost anticlimactic in a way.
Yeah.
Also, just a little thing I like that when Charles almost kills Magneto, and Magneto like, shit, has he been holding back this whole time? Like if that's the case, I really don't have a chance because like this will kill me. Like it's just a realization that Charles has been nice to him all this time. Because if Charles really wanted to, he could have just like murdered him years ago. Which again speaks to their relationship, right?
Yeah.
The speech Kitty gives at the end, and like the famous page of like Stryker pointing at Nightcrawler,
Yeah.
like that's really powerful. And like the speech she gives of like Kurt has every right to be the monster that you are, but he's not. He's a human, and you have no right to be the monster that you are. But Kurt, through all of this, who's the most devout religious person in the X-Men, finds a way to find humor, even though he's been treated so badly. He's found a way to be more human than Stryker. While Stryker is trying to point out, look at him, he's weird looking. Clearly, he must be killed. And Kid's just like, nah, that's not how this works. And then, like, last thing I want to touch on. Well, do you have anything to say about these two things?
No, no, I like the points you're bringing up from this climactic battle.
So I guess the last thing is like at the end, right, when they're all back in the study and like
All right,
basically.
I have one more point from the fight then.
Okay, go ahead.
Which is just that there's kind of this, like how do they trick Charles Xavier into being able to stop him?
Yeah,
And they had to have two simultaneous attacks, and Cyclops had to be okay with either one of the attacks maybe being terminal.
Right.
Um, like I think that was kind of, I wish there was like one more panel or like a half page more on that, just like the weight of that decision for Scott. But I also can see this being the sort of decision that he can make only because he's gone through the Dark Phoenix stuff.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about the end, so we can go ahead and wrap this up, is that Professor X loses faith.
Yeah.
And it's really powerful because he was just like, if I'm supposed to be one to bring everybody together, but I'm the one that almost killed everyone, right? I'm the one that almost takes everybody out. Like, what am I fighting for if I'm just human like everybody else, despite my powers? You know what I'm saying? And then it's Scott who steps up, right? And says,
Yeah.
like, nah. And it's almost like, the student has become the teacher in that moment.
No, that page I'm good with. It was the like 2 pages after that felt really weird.
Talking about with Storm and Cyclops.
Yeah.
This keep dwelling on that, huh? I mean, look, it would make sense if they did, right? Like, it wouldn't be out the realm of possibility.
I just mean, like, has he tried not dating an X-Men?
Why?
I don't know. Just makes things complicated, weird.
Look, all I'm saying
Don't want to
is,
get HR involved in all your relationships. I'm sorry. I just said that, and now I'm just imagining that there's like one mutant with like really lame powers, and he's stuck in like a room with a filing cabinet, and all he does is like handle tax paperwork and stuff for the school. And then he has to do like HR stuff.
like, and they keep, like you said, they keep him in the basement, and like his powers, like he can read papers really fast, or some shit like that, right? Like he can read really fast, and
He
that's
can
all
instantly heal paper cuts.
yeah, like just something crazy like that. And he had like some lame mute like mutant code name, like I don't know, what PR. It's just I don't know. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, PR. Like we gotta go see PR. Well, he's in the basement, of course. Like he never leaves. He just frustrated because look, Storm actually ends up dating Wolverine later in the comic. So like there's a lot of like weird boning going on in that school that he probably has to deal with.
Yeah.
This fake X-Men character we just made up. Especially between like Kitty and Colossus, cuz he's like 18, 19 and she's like 13 or 14. Like there's all types of weird. Like he just man, PR in the basement is stressed the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's got teenage girls like Kitty throwing the N-word around, and man, that is a nightmare.
Wolverine just casually murder people, threaten them with his sharp hands. It's just not a good place to be. It's not a good work culture. They all need to be retrained.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starting from. Okay, I think we reached the end. Amanda, would you recommend God Love Man Kills?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I might even recommend it above the Dark Phoenix saga stuff if someone wanted to read like a real old school X-Men comic that is kind of like the movies.
Well, and we didn't even touch on like how much of an influence this book had on X2, but I don't think we need to get into that. Just know that they took a lot of elements from this book and put
all the cool stuff, only the cool stuff.
Well, no. See, this is the thing though. Look. I think we've read 2 X-Men comics within a year of each other, right? At this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both of these comics represent the best parts of either side of the X-Men, whether it be this giant bombastic cosmic stuff or whether it be like this more quiet story. I would have loved if they just did this story as a movie.
Yeah.
But again, it's low on action. It's a more quiet story. Of course, they're not gonna make that, right? But like some of the best parts of X-Men are stories like this. But we don't get that in the movies. We don't get that in the movies. We kind of get it in the cartoon. We get it more in the cartoon, but we don't get it in the movies. But I love for them to make a movie like this, where it just puts everything on Front Street. You know what I'm saying? Where, like, you know, you don't have to change William Stryker into a military scientist. He can be a preacher. Like, I would love to have like a more quiet X-Men story, starring like the A-list X-Men as a movie. I would, like I said, I think I might recommend this over Dark Phoenix, just like Amanda said. I think this is like the quintessential like X-Men story. Like, I feel like this Dark Phoenix, and honestly, Whedon's run that we're gonna get to eventually, encapsulates everything cool about the X-Men, in my opinion. So Amanda, I think that's it. So Amanda, can you tell everybody what we're reading this episode?
We were gonna do some Tom King, right, Mr. Miracle?
We are doing Mr. Miracle, yes. Eisner Award-winning Mr. Miracle. Basically, what he did for the Vision, he did for Mr. Miracle. In the most simplistic terms that I could put it, right? It's supposed to be really good. It's supposed to be really great. I haven't read it yet because I was waiting for it to do it for the show. And it's no time like the present. Right, Amanda?
There is so much time in the present right now.
Yes. Now, if they wanted to reach us to talk about religious undertones in comic books, what could they reach us?
We are on Twitter as Comic Book Club 52. You can email us, comicbookclub52@gmail.com. We are also on Facebook as the Comic Book Club. And if you shout into the void loud enough, maybe we'll hear you and shout back.
Maybe. And just a heads up, just a reminder that next month is Watchmen month. We are doing an episode every week on Watchmen. Right now the schedule goes at the beginning of July we are doing the actual Watchmen book. For the second week of July we are doing the movie. I think we're going to do the director's cut, Amanda. So I just want to let you know that we're probably doing the not the ultimate cut. Don't do the ultimate cut. The director's cut of the Watchmen movie.
The Snyder cut.
Yes, you know what, we didn't talk about that. We you know what, we'll talk about that next time because I kind of want to get into that. I kind of want to get into that a bit. But yes, the Snyder cut, the director's cut of Watchmen. Then a week after that, we're reading Doomsday, which is kind of like the comic sequel to the Watchmen comic. Then the final week of July, we are reviewing all 10 or 13 episodes of the HBO Watchmen series. So I'm telling everybody now, because that's a lot of episodes to watch. You might want to get on that. Speaking to you too, Amanda.
Yep. I'm going to pace myself.
Read the book first. Just read the book first before you look at the show, of course. But so everybody do that. Read the book, then watch the show. So I'm giving everybody a heads up. Everybody got a month's time to basically do their homework before we start on this. And with that, we are done. Thank you. Everybody please donate to everybody donate to a civil rights foundation if you can. Black Lives Matters. Defund the police. Power to the people. I'm Jamil Payne.
I'm Amanda Comey.
And we are out.